Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the April 22nd, 2025 County Council meeting. Today's meeting, we're going to begin with a presentation, a proclamation recognizing Affordable Housing Month, and I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Friedson.
All right, we're going to invite down all of our advocates. We have Housing Opportunities Commission. We have a number of our nonprofit affordable housing partners. We have our Department of Housing and Community Affairs. I'm going to invite and ask my colleagues on the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee as well, who are going to help me read the proclamation when we get to that point. Come on down. We are really excited to be able to recognize Affordable Housing Month, and it's an appropriate day and an appropriate time to be able to do that. And I'm just really excited to be here with so many of our community partners who are doing the work each and every day to continue what Montgomery County has been leading on for the past 50 years in affordable housing. We are the birthplace and the home of inclusionary zoning with the MPDU moderately priced dwelling unit program. We have created modern innovations at the current council and the last council with the Housing Production Fund, the $100 million fund through Housing Opportunities Commission, which is now being replicated in jurisdictions all across the United States of America as a model for mixed income communities. We've continued with that effort with the Nonprofit Preservation Fund, the $50 million fund that is helping us to preserve naturally occurring affordable housing all throughout our community. We've worked together to make it easier to build affordable housing, partnering with our places of worship and our educational institutions to leverage their land, to lead by the power of our example in county government to make it easier and to focus ourselves on providing affordable housing on our county-owned and our public lands, to make sure that our metro land has housing and high-rise housing at that as well. So we are truly continuing in the tradition of what Montgomery County has always been, which is a place that innovates, a place that continues to push and to ensure that we don't just say that we have an inclusive and welcoming community, that we mean it and that we prove it. And we know that the challenges that face the housing market continue to plague counties and communities and jurisdictions here in this region and throughout our country, and that our work is only getting more and more challenging. And that's why the partnerships that we have within county government, with the Housing Opportunities Commission, and with our community partners are more important than ever. So I'm going to quickly ask each person to introduce themselves and the organization that they're representing here today. And then we are going to hear from a few community partners, and then we're going to read the proclamation along with my colleagues on the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee. So I'm going to start over here with our Department of Housing and Community Affairs.
Scott Bruton with the Department of Housing and Community Affairs.
Summer Cross, Chief of Housing, DHCA.
Chris Gillis with Montgomery Housing Partnership.
Samantha D'Amato, President of the Greater Capital Area Association of Realtors.
Sarah Redinger with Habitat for Humanity Metro Maryland.
Roy Freese, Chair of the Montgomery County Housing Opportunities Commission.
Chelsea Andrews, President of the Housing Opportunities Commission.
Mary Kohler with the Montgomery Housing Alliance.
Layla Finucane with Victory Housing.
Abe Schuckman with Housing Unlimited.
Melissa Bondi with Enterprise Community Partners.
Zach Marks, Enterprise Community Partners.
Robert Goldman, President, Montgomery Housing Partnership.
Great. Well, thank you so much. This is just a sampling of some of the incredible people in our community and organizations within Montgomery County that are doing the work each and every day. We're going to hear first from Chelsea Andrews with the Housing Opportunities Commission.
Thank you so much. I want to just take a moment to acknowledge how important partnership is, acknowledge my colleagues that are here behind me, but most importantly, our council members who continue to have our backs in the work that we do. Affordable housing is much more than the bricks and the sticks that we build. It's about the families and the lives that we're able to touch. And the way that this county has embraced the community, the people that we serve, is beyond what any other county, I believe, in the United States of America has been able to accomplish. The full spectrum in terms of support, everything from resident services, permanent supportive housing, but also the dedicated resources, time and again, in terms of looking at innovation and how we could advance our missions to develop affordable housing. I want to say thank you for your partnership. Thank you for the acknowledgement. And on behalf of my peers, thank you so much for always being our champion.
Thank you so much. Now we're going to hear from Layla Finucane with Victory Housing.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Layla Finucane with Victory Housing. I want to thank you for asking us here today for this proclamation. Also just want to share a little bit about Victory Housing and how much the county has helped us. We at Victory Housing, we've been around since 1979. We got our start here in Montgomery County. Out of 35 communities, 18 of them are here in Montgomery County, and our focus has always been on senior housing. The work that we do would not have been possible without the support and funding of the county, and we want to just say thank you for that. And also just to point out that Montgomery County has always been such a source of not only support for affordable housing, but also innovation. This is Earth Day. It's sort of a special example for us. We were recently selected for an award through the Montgomery County Department of Environmental Protection to work on electrification of Victory Tower, which is a senior community in Tacoma, one of our oldest communities, but one of the ones that is most essential as a community asset. And that funding, that grant will help us work towards electrifying that building and making it more resilient for the future. So thank you, Montgomery County. Thank you to the County Council and for your support in being a champion for affordable housing.
Thank you so much for all of your work. Now we're going to hear from Sarah Redinger with Habitat for Humanity.
Hi, Sarah Redinger with Habitat for Humanity. First, thank you to the council. We're truly grateful for the support of the county and the council in particular. Habitat for Humanity is a nonprofit. We've been working in Montgomery County for over 40 years, making sure that folks have access to purchase affordable homeownership and then also to preserve that affordable homeownership. So Habitat is a builder. The county helps support our new construction projects, our rehab projects. We underwrite affordable mortgages for lower income families. And then we also have home preservation that's funded by the county as well, really focused on ensuring that older adults can stay safely in their homes and overall ensuring that folks have the ability to build and protect generational wealth.
Thank you so much. It is such an honor for me to serve as the chair of the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee, to stand shoulder to shoulder with each and every one of these incredible partners in this work and to work together with my colleagues, Council Vice President Giwando and Councilmember Fonda Gonzalez, on these issues. So the three of us are together going to read this proclamation. Whereas during Affordable Housing Month, Montgomery County proudly joins communities across the country in recommitting ourselves to equity, access, and opportunity in housing for all of our residents. And
whereas Montgomery County has long been a leader in advancing fair and affordable housing through landmark policies like the Moderately Priced Dwelling Unit (MPDU) program, one of the first and most enduring examples of inclusionary zoning in the nation. And
whereas the Montgomery County Council has championed innovative zoning reforms and spearheaded legislation to modernize the MPDU law, increase housing production near transit, and help more families live near jobs, schools, and services. And
whereas the council has advanced key initiatives to preserve and protect existing affordable housing, including the Housing Production Fund and the Nonprofit Preservation Fund, ensuring that affordability, opportunity, and community stability remain cornerstones of Montgomery County's continued growth. And
Whereas during Fair Housing Month, Montgomery County also reaffirms its commitment to inclusive, vibrant, and equitable communities where every resident, regardless of race, income, age, disability, or background, has access to safe, stable, and affordable housing and the opportunity to thrive.
Now therefore be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland hereby commemorates Affordable Housing Month, and be it further resolved that the County Council recognizes the tireless efforts of so many housing advocates, community organizations, and county leaders, many of whom are here today with us, and recommits to building more homes and upholding the principles of fairness and dignity in housing for each and every one of our residents, presented on this 22nd day of April, Earth Day and Worth Day, in the year 2025 by myself as chair of the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee, and Kate Stewart and the entire Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee on behalf of the entire County Council. Happy Affordable Housing Month, and congratulations. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much to all of our affordable housing providers who joined us today. We very much appreciate it. And thank you to Chair and Councilmember Andrew Friedson, Council Vice President Jawando, and Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez for that proclamation. Now we're moving on to general business. Madam Clerk, will you please share today's announcements?
The council will hold a public hearing on the county executive's recommended amendments transmitted to the council on April 14th, 2025, and other potential amendments to the FY 25 to 30 capital improvements program on Tuesday, May 13th, 2025 at 1:30 p.m. Those wishing to provide testimony in person or virtually must register in advance via the council's website by 2:00 p.m. on May 12th, 2025. Additional information may be found on the council's website. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. The minutes from the March 25th, 2025 council session have been circulated to colleagues for review. Are there any objections to approving these minutes? Seeing none, the minutes stand approved. All right, we will now begin with our first public hearing. Item 2 is a public hearing and action on a resolution to approve supplemental appropriation 25-65 to the FY25 operating budget, Montgomery County Government, Department of Health and Human Services, Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development Emergency Rental Assistance Grant. This is a grant in the amount of $1,486,353. The source of funds is a state grant. Council action is scheduled immediately following this hearing. As a reminder of our public hearing testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying and are appropriate for a public meeting. You will hear a tone when your time is up, and we appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time. We have 2 speakers in person today. We have Patricia Toomey and Niels Kinyuamini. Okay. Ms. Toomey, you can start whenever you're ready.
Hi, council members. My name is Patricia Toomey. I'd like to thank the council members that I met with yesterday. I appreciate you taking the time out to meet with me. I just want to explain that I'm here for the housing of justice, and my voice is being heard through them. I'm a mother and a woman that resides in a car outside of Progress Place in Silver Spring. I'm a member of the Housing for Justice, Montgomery County. I urge Montgomery County to allocate $1.48 million in emergency rental assistance program for year 2025. I'm a 58-year-old woman who has had a career for 20 years in the revenue protection specialist in the Internal Revenue Service. In the past, when I lived in New York, I know from me my two boys who are amazing men of society, who actually one of them has gotten his first job, thank you, in the city of Rockville. And he's also autistic, so I want to thank you for that too. Also, on April 7th, you did the proclamation for the autism. I appreciate that. And when I lived in New York, the thing that got me the most was my top priority was my rent. The problem that what happens is really life happens. You know, your car breaks down, you know, you don't have a savings. You don't understand when you don't have a savings, you have to live from week to week. And being with a federal employee as I am, I still consider myself a federal employee, even those people that are out there now, they're going to have a tough time in a couple of months when they run out of their funding that they were given when they left. The reason why I say that is because in New York I was recently assaulted and I was sex trafficked, and sought help from my family in Maryland. So I came here to be protected. It is important to me that Montgomery County approves the funds for emergency rental assistance because it will prevent people from ever coming into the shelters. Many families are struggling, especially in the economy and the federal job cuts that we've had. I've been experiencing the shelter system for a year and 4 months now, and this could happen to anyone. But it's actually a cutthroat environment, and trying to survive in the shelter system is actually very, very devastating if you really live from week to week. The average person wouldn't survive it to be mentally withstanding in this situation. Basically, what I'd like to say is, I know that the safe, stable, and affordable housing is the basis of having a good life. Housing stability can relieve mental, emotional, and physical stress, enable a person to look for the employment and move through life with less stress. If that $1.4 million for the community that lives in the edge of housing stabilization and facing homelessness, I believe that the 105 people that were put out in Progress Place in April 1st would agree that we need funding now, not 2 years from now, not 2 months from now, now. We're not just asking for money, we're asking for our lives back. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that testimony. I just want to make sure that Niels Kanuani is not with us. Okay, well, then this public hearing is now closed. We'll now move on to the action portion of this item. Is there a motion to approve supplemental appropriation 25-65? I have Councilmember Friedson move, Council Vice President Jawando second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Thank you, everyone. We will move on now to item 3 is a public hearing and action on a resolution to approve supplemental appropriation 25-70 to the FY25 operating budget, Montgomery County Public Schools Safety Grant Program in the amount of $1,485,840 in source of funds is state aid. Council action is scheduled immediately following this hearing. There are no registered speakers for this hearing. The public hearing is now closed. We will now move on to the action portion of this item. Is there a motion to approve supplemental appropriation 25-70? Council Vice President Jawando moves. Council Member Lukey second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that's unanimous. Moving on to item number 4 is a public hearing and action on a resolution to approve supplemental appropriation 25-64 to the FY25 operating budget, Montgomery County Public Schools, Title IV, Part A, Student Support and Academic Enrichment Grant in the amount of $1,279,798. Source of funds is state grant. Council action is scheduled immediately following this hearing. There are no registered speakers for this hearing. The public hearing is now closed. We will now move on to the action portion of this item. Is there a motion to approve supplemental appropriation 25-64? I have moved by Council Vice President Jawando, second by Council Member Sales. All those in favor, please raise your hand, and that's unanimous. All right, next, item 5 is a public hearing and action on a resolution to approve supplemental appropriation 25-67 to the FY25 operating budget, Montgomery County Public Schools Clean School Bus Grant in the amount of $4,700,000. Source of funds is a federal grant. Council action is scheduled immediately following this hearing. There are no registered speakers for this hearing. The public hearing is now closed. We will now move on to the action portion of this item. Is there a motion to approve supplemental appropriation 25-67? Council Vice President Giwando moved. Councilmember Balcom seconded. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Next is item 6, is a public hearing on resolution to set the FY26 real property tax rate increase. A Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee work session is scheduled for May 1st, 2025. Those wishing to submit materials for council's consideration should do so by the close of business on April 24th, 2025. As a reminder of our public hearing testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying and are appropriate for a public meeting. You will hear a tone when your time is up, and we'll appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time. I will call up now the first 5 speakers we have here in person. We have Samantha D'Amato, Robbie Shapiro, Diana Casaraco, Seema Blackman Hall, Jenny McAtee. That's 5. And Samantha D'Amato can kick us off when you are ready.
Good afternoon. My name is Samantha D'Amato, and I'm here on behalf of the Greater Capital Area Association of Realtors, GCARD, to urge the council to avoid property tax rate increases. 2 weeks ago, at the fiscal year 26 operating budget public hearing, I spoke to the rising costs Montgomery County residents face and the growing unaffordability that follows. All of this would be exacerbated by a second tax rate hike in as many years. The tax rate increase we are discussing today is earmarked specifically for educational spending. But when you look at this budget, a simple message appears. County Executive Elrich is using that to cover for ballooning county government. Why are we increasing spending while our residents face layoffs and an economy in upheaval? The county executive proposes an additional $215 million in county government spending over fiscal year 25. That's a 7.7 increase, nearly 3 times the rate of inflation. His recommendations fund 155 new positions just in county government. While operating costs have fallen below fiscal year 24, personnel costs have expanded by $250 million, a nearly 16% increase from 2 years ago. Despite revenue coming in tens of millions of dollars above projections and a proposed tax rate increase to bring an additional $89 million, the county executive's budget still adds fuel to the ticking time bomb of our growing structural deficit, creating a $58 million projected structural deficit. This spending will not change the housing marketplace in our county for the better. While the county's investment in programs like the Housing Initiative Fund and Nonprofit Preservation Fund are crucial, we cannot spend our way into a better housing marketplace. More importantly to today's discussion, we cannot tax our way to more affordable and attainable housing either. I mentioned 2 weeks ago that I am also a settlement attorney. I regularly handle transactions for people moving out of Montgomery County. Why are they leaving? Housing is simply more affordable elsewhere. Montgomery County is seen as too expensive to age in place, find housing for expanding family, or other life-changing reasons associated with either increased costs or decreased or fixed income. When do we stop asking our residents for more money? Do not set us up for a more difficult budget decisions ahead. Please reject a property tax rate increase and keep housing affordable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is Robbie Shapiro here? All right, we'll hold on, call him later. Diana Casarasco.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Diana Carrasco. I am a Hispanic real estate professional, a proud resident and business owner in Montgomery County. I own several properties here, provide affordable housing, and educate the Hispanic community on the path to homeownership with my weekly radio show for the past 8 years. I strongly oppose the property tax rate increase. This measure will only deepen the housing affordability crisis already gripping our county, especially for minorities like Latinos who are disproportionately impacted by cost burden. Let's look at the facts. In Montgomery County, nearly half of all Hispanic families, 46%, rent their homes, while that number is only 34% for the general population. And for the Hispanics family who do manage to buy a home, more than 6 out of 10 are struggling to afford it. They're spending over 30% of their income just on housing costs. That's considered a serious financial burden. Latinos now make up over 20% of the county's population, with more than half under the age of 44. This is the next generation of home buyers, yet housing costs keeps moving further out of reach. According to the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals 2024 Homeownership Report, Latinos were responsible for 35% of the net homeownership growth in the U.S. last year. We are driving national progress, but here in Montgomery County, we're being priced out of the very communities we helped build. Montgomery County Hispanic median income is just 70% of the county-wide average, yet our median housing costs are higher than the general population. A tax hike would push even more of us into financial precarity, displacing working families and forcing out small landlords like myself who provide affordable rentals and reducing inventory for first-time home buyers. I have seen firsthand how Latinos family hustle, save, and dream of homeownership. Many live multi-generationally just to afford a down payment. Increasing the property tax burden doesn't just hurt them, it crushes their American dream. Instead of raising taxes on property owners, let's focus on expanding housing supply, creating targeted affordability incentives like first-time homebuyer programs, and protecting our most vulnerable homeowners. As someone who educates first-time homebuyers every day, I urge you, don't close the door on opportunity. Please vote against this increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Now can I have Seema Blackman Hall?
My name is Seema Blackman Hall. I'm a mom, wife, landlord, registered voter, homeowner, taxpayer, and a resident of Montgomery County for over 4 decades. Also, I'm a real estate agent who's been licensed in Maryland, D.C., and Virginia. The state of Maryland has a severe deficit, and it appears that Governor Moore and the state assembly are looking to Montgomery County to pay 44% of the income tax hike, even though we make roughly 1/6 of the state's population. At 11.8%, Maryland will now charge high earners, those making $200,000, will pay more than twice as much taxes as Virginia. Montgomery County taxpayers are projected to pay 54% of the increase due to rate and deduction charges. And now, County Executive Mark Elrich proposes an unnecessary property tax hike. I got into real estate to help people become homeowners and truly love what I do. But sadly, housing has become unaffordable for many, with interest rates doubling, high mortgage payments, and real estate taxes. Even rentals have gone up. To make matters worse, I've heard of people having to give up their pets because they couldn't afford them. Even in Montgomery County, we have no-kill shelters. Sadly, 10% can be euthanized to make space. Euthanize is a nice word for kill. For those who are able to buy a home, our real estate taxes are on a triennial assessment. Each year it goes up. I call them mini heart attacks. The past assessment, many of us homeowners had an eye-popping increase of 20 to 50% on top of the state taxes. We homeowners pay county taxes and city taxes. You even get taxed when you leave, when you sell and pay the transfer taxes. As a landlord, my HOA payments, insurance, and assessments have all increased. Landlords will need to increase their rents. PEPCO and WSSC hiked their rates in October. It has exacerbated an already stretched too thin housing budget for everyone. Additionally, those who are on fixed incomes, retirees, disabled, seniors, veterans will be forced to move to where their taxes are lower and within their means. The elephant in the room is MCPS, who has 47% of the budget. We pay approximately $22,643 per student. I'm an MCPS graduate. Unfortunately, the MCPS that we've all come to know is not what it used to be. This budget does not provide for any accountability for improved learning in math and reading or test scores. We can return to excellence and at the same time stop wasting like the millions on electric school buses to abandon this green initiative to now want to invest in diesel. There was nothing green about this except losing green. Each month, my family and I have to stay within our budget and pay our bills, and we're asking you to do the same. I come to you since you have the power to do good. Please do not raise our property taxes. Just because you can doesn't mean that you should.
Jenny McAtee.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Jenny McAtee, and I'm a proud resident of the county, a full-time realtor, and a condominium owner. I'm here today to speak strongly in opposition to the proposed increase in property taxes, as well as the unbalanced hikes in the common ownership community registration fee and the solid waste fee, all of which would negatively affect housing affordability. Property taxes are not just numbers on a bill, they're real impacts on real people. These increases are felt monthly in our escrow payments, and they ripple across our household budgets. For many of my clients, especially first-home home buyers and retirees, every dollar counts. These hikes don't just affect individual homeowners. They also put pressure on the entire household market. I work every day with families trying to make this county their home. These increases are pushing home ownership farther out of reach. This council has spoken often about the need for housing and economic inclusivity. Raising property taxes directly undermines these goals. As a condominium owner, I already pay into my building's condo association, which provides essential services and maintenance that the county is not covering. The proposed increase to the common ownership community registration fee disproportionately burdens condominium home ownership, many of whom are on fixed incomes. It's not balanced and it's not fair. This fee already went up from $5 to $6.50 last year. With the proposed change, it would be a 100% total increase in just 2 years. The solid waste fee hike is just another hit, especially when it comes with no clear corresponding increase in service. Higher cost without increased value is a losing equation, and once again, it puts the strain squarely on us residents. The proposed increase for my building alone would cost over $16,000. In isolation, each of these fees may seem modest, but in total, they're a growing burden on residents and are pricing many out of an already inflating housing market. I urge the council to consider not just the numbers on a spreadsheet, but the lives behind those numbers. We want to remain in this county. We want to build here, invest here, and grow here. But we need a tax and fee structure that supports, not punishes, home ownership. Please reconsider these increases. Our homes, our clients, and the entire county are counting on all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to that panelist. Next, I'd like to call up Bonnie Casper, Stacy Sauter, Carol Plate, Gordy Brin, and Angela Franco. And Bonnie Casper, you can start whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Bonnie Casper, and I appreciate the opportunity to express my concerns about the proposed 3.5% property tax hike as presented in the county executive's proposed FY26 budget. I have been a resident of the county for 42 years, have been active in the community, and have witnessed many positive changes in the county. But let me be clear, this is neither the time nor the place to pass such a tax increase. First, I support creating and maintaining our public schools at the highest level of quality. We should not pit education against other governmental functions. Neither should our support of education detract from our investment in other services. I am a realtor, and while I am not representing GCAR, although a past president, I cannot disassociate myself from my profession. Realtors sell a quality of life, not just properties. We look at our community as an intertwining of housing, jobs, transportation, education, health care, the arts, recreation, and open spaces. All these elements are reasons why people move to the county, not for just one of them. We are facing hard times. External factors will create exceptional financial constraints and pressures, and our county is disproportionately targeted. Thus, we must be mindful that a 3.5% property tax increase will place substantial regressive affordability pressures on the community. As I understand it, the tax increase comprises just 11% of the new money in the budget, and without the tax hike, the school board would still receive sufficient funding to meet MCPS's requested budget and still give the other agencies combined an increase that exceeds inflation. Therefore, this may not in fact be the math problem that the county executive has described. Additionally, for every dollar we add to the school budget, we must realize that we may, and I say may, have to account for that and more in FY27 due to the maintenance of effort requirements. Homeowners have to tighten their belts. The cost of everything has increased, including eggs, since January 20th, and incomes are not keeping pace. So, as I started, I will conclude. This is neither the time nor the place to raise our taxes. We must keep Montgomery County affordable and preserve the quality of life residents seek. Thank you very much, and happy Earth Day to everybody.
Thank you. Next is Stacy Sauter.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I come to you not with outrage, but with urgency and a deep respect and love for this county we all call home. I'm a 5th-generation native of Montgomery County and a 10th-generation native of Maryland. I have the ability to zoom in and out on our rich history. I can state unequivocally that Montgomery County has always made me proud for its excellence, diversity, and opportunity. But it's as clear to me as ever before that we are at a tipping point. The signs of a system under stress are all around us. Wages can't keep up with the cost of living, and longtime residents are being squeezed hard, and I'm one of them. Over the past 3 years, my costs increased $100,000 per month in property taxes, utilities, and insurance alone. This is before groceries or gas. My income didn't go up, but I'm $12,000 poorer each year, and now you want to raise property taxes again. Another sign of stress is our once revered school system. Not anymore. Teachers are burned out, and too many students are falling behind. But yet again, you want higher taxes for more public education funding for failing results? That might be easier to accept if we had actual transparency to conclude that we're getting our money's worth. But so far, we can't quite tell what you did with the money from the last 3 property tax increases. And then public safety feels uncertain. Whether it's the rise in property crimes, carjackings, or just a growing sense that something's off, people feel it. And my understanding is that the police department is down approximately 128 patrol staff, which decreases response times and increases criminal confidence. These aren't isolated concerns. They're connected. The one certain thing that Montgomery County always had going for it was stability. We could bank on it, but the signs of stress that we're seeing are symptoms of a system that has lost balance. We have too many people in the cart, not enough people pulling it, and the wheels are starting to wobble. Moco's economy stagnated well before federal layoffs. Large companies left, and others don't want to start or grow their businesses here due to lack of stability. Tipping points don't come with sirens. They come when people quietly lose confidence, when they stop showing up, when they start giving up, when they stop speaking up, and when they leave. We cannot allow that here. We need common sense to prevail. We need for each of you to realize that raising property taxes again at such a sensitive time may be the exact tipping point where Montgomery County never, ever recovers to what made it special to begin with. We need a council that listens to the residents who are quietly slipping through the cracks. We can no longer respond gullibly to your special interest, pet projects, and cascading unmet human needs. We can no longer accept that every crisis justifies every cost, or that Montgomery County alone must carry the weight of the world. Like I said, tipping points don't come with sirens. They come with quiet exits. and with empty storefronts. I stand ready to work with anyone in this room, elected or not, who shares the goals of keeping taxes in check. Montgomery County still has everything it needs to succeed, but only if we're bold and honest enough about where we are and where we need to go, which starts with not passing yet another property tax increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Carol Plate.
Hi.
Turn on your mic. Yeah. Got it.
Hi. I'm a retired single senior turning 70, living in Kensington across the street from where Mr. Albanese used to live, on a fixed income in my home of 38 years. I hope to stay there. My neighborhood is being gentrified by McMansions, and more taxing works to force me to leave. I strongly oppose this tax increase because, one, the additional tax poses an undue hardship, especially to limited income seniors who are facing uncontrolled price increases in almost every aspect of their lives. Social Security benefits, which I largely rely on, increased only 2.5% for 2025, but my property taxes will rise by over 11% with the assessment and rate increases. The increase would consume 35% of the increase in my Social Security and pension benefits this year. In 3 years, my property assessment alone will increase over 20%. Where am I supposed to get the money? My auto insurance increased 30%, home insurance 27%, but these are much smaller bills than my property tax bill. I do as much home maintenance as I can myself to save money, but it gets more dangerous as I age. The senior property tax credits help very few people because the requirements are so strict. Washington, D.C. cuts property taxes by 50% for those over 65 with household incomes up to $160,000 that I've attached. Why not at least limit the total property tax increase to the rate that Social Security benefits increase if people are on Social Security and take the standard federal deduction? 2, the county needs to find ways to curb its spending, including education. Everything added now gets built into next year's baseline. President Obama froze my federal pay for 3 straight years, and we never got make-up pay raises. 3, let those who are able and happy to pay more do so, but do not force this burden on others. Some people are fine with paying more tax. Wealthier people may not feel it's a big deal, may deduct it on an itemized federal return, or have kids to see more direct benefits. So have a voluntary tax or charitable contribution that can be deducted on the federal return and see how that does before you impose a mandatory higher tax on everyone. 4, the property assessment process, methodology, and administration is unfair and broken. It should be taken over and administered by the county. Maryland is the only state where the county does not control assessments. The effects: mansionized properties are underassessed and small, older, unimproved properties are overassessed. Additions, rebuilds are not timely reassessed. Property assessments do not incorporate the property's actual recent sales value price. Properties are getting the $692 county property credit that don't deserve it. As a result, the property tax charged is often unfair and inconsistent. I'm a certified fraud examiner with knowledge, and this needs to be fixed.
Thank you. Gordy Bren.
Hi, I'm Gordy Brenning with the Taxpayers League. Many of you know me. I'm not a realtor. I'm a bean counter. So I'm going to stick to the spending side of the equation. We've got to stop meeting like this. Once a year, about this time, we get together to figure out how to bail out MCPS from its structural deficit. If you structure your budget approval with incentives, it won't have to happen again next year. You can help management break the structural deficit cycle by using the state-mandated maintenance of effort level for the budget next year. A council resolution that spending will be tied to results will incentivize management to better control costs and boost academic proficiency. Sound too good to be true? Well, here's the ugly truth. We've spent almost $700 million over maintenance of effort in the last 3 years and have little to show for it. We know it's not your job to tell management how to do their job, but we do expect you to approve a budget that delivers results for our kids. It's obvious MCPS needs to get costs under control. MCPS overhead, that's non-instruction costs, compares poorly to Fairfax, about the same size, 45% for us, 37% for them. Did you know that $182 million, or over half of the recommended spending increase, is for overhead? Also, did you know that the hemorrhaging $400 million health insurance trust has only a temporary $40 million Band-Aid in this budget, and it could be fixed tomorrow? How did we get in this pickle? Simply put, policymakers have put fully funding MCPS budget ahead of results for our kids. This compounds the fact that MOE creates perverse incentives to increase overhead costs. Why? Because MCPS and your budget process focus on incremental spending increases, not the base where the time bomb of future deficits live. It's time for a new approach. Approve an MOE budget for next year, which is appropriate for an operating plan that doesn't have a single academic proficiency target. Include in your budget resolution that if MCPS shows good academic progress next year, you intend to approve a higher budget for FY27, using money set aside as an extra reserve account this year. This would give management an incentive to cut actual overhead costs and target instruction spending where it will increase academic results the most next year. An innovation fund is one funding strategy we've discussed with the last 3 superintendents with no success. It's based on Wallace Foundation research our education consultant shared with us. Effective and more autonomous principals in low-income schools are key to improving academic results. Those schools would receive grants based on their school improvement plans funded by the Education Reserve. Again, we know it's not your job to tell MCPS to stop putting novice principals in low-income schools, but incentivizing superior results, school by school, will get the job done. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Angela Franco.
I'm Angela Franco, President and CEO of the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for allowing me to testify about the property tax increase proposed in the fiscal year 2026 operating budget. The Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce and the business community strongly oppose a property tax increase. We don't believe that increasing taxes will solve the financial challenges of the county. And this property tax increase proposed by the county executive comes on the heels of a 4.7 cents property tax increase just 2 short years ago. Residents and businesses cannot afford more property taxes, especially after the cost we will pay in rising assessments and after the state chose to raise $1.6 billion in taxes and fees, the majority of which will come from right here in Montgomery County. Our county has been experiencing virtually no economic growth in recent years, and we're falling behind. The solution is to make the county a more inviting and affordable place to live and work, and our tax climate is part of that. We are here to support and work with you to see how we can make our government more efficient and, of course, to grow our economy. Increasing the property yet again harms our ability to grow the economy and create jobs, and without this growth, we cannot grow Montgomery County's tax base. In recent years, the county has become a more expensive and difficult place to do business, with increases in property taxes and recordation taxes and things like rent control, high energy taxes, and the challenges our businesses will face to comply with policies like building energy performance standards. Instead of raising taxes and fees, we instead ask council members to amend and pass an affordable budget without the need for new taxes. This current budget proposal grows more than the rate of inflation and adds more new positions to the government than is affordable. We're asking for a budget that lives with our means. And for these reasons, please vote no to this property tax increase. Thank you for allowing me to testify, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much to this panel. Our next up, we have Esther Wells, Barbara Mauskowitz, Robin Ficker, Stephanie Helsing, Vicky Verigani, and Jeremiah Pope. And I'm going to see if Robbie Shapiro has joined us. If he has, he can come down too. And Ms. Wells, when you are situated, you can begin.
Good afternoon, Council President Stewart, council members, staff, and community members. My name is Esther Wells, and I am the president of the Montgomery County Taxpayers League and a Maryland certified public accountant specializing in taxes. The objective of the Montgomery County Taxpayers League is to educate and advocate for county taxpayers. We support appropriate actions to achieve greater efficiency and effectiveness in Montgomery County government and tax equity for Montgomery County taxpayers. I want to reiterate that taxpayers share the same values as the county government. We want to have a balanced budget that fully funds our priorities: public safety, schools, and transportation. This year, the county executive has proposed a 3.5-cent property tax rate increase. Keep in mind that earlier this month, the Maryland General Assembly added at least a dozen tax and fee increases that disproportionately affects Montgomery County residents. Property assessments are higher, as much as 40% in recent years. The county is already receiving tens of millions of dollars more in property tax revenues each year for at least the next 3 years. Then reassessments will occur and values likely to increase again. Montgomery County continues to erode its tax base and undermine its own housing affordability initiatives to our most vulnerable residents, such as fixed income pensioners and low income renters. Last year, FY 2024, this council approved a 4.7% property tax rate increase to fund our schools. In hindsight, there was not a budget emergency that required a tax rate increase. Without the loophole in Maryland state law to circumvent Montgomery County voters' desire for unanimous vote for property tax increase, last year's 4.7% tax hike would not have happened. While this council does not engage in retroactive budgeting, it is important to minimize the fact or appearance of abusive practices. Thank you, Council Members Friedson, Lutke, and Sales, for your commitment not to raising property taxes this year. Since the county charter requires unanimous vote yes to raise property taxes, your votes will ensure Montgomery County residents' desire to set a high bar for raising property taxes will remain intact. I strongly encourage your colleagues to join you in bringing much-needed relief to taxpayers in these challenging times. County Executive's FY 2026 operating budget has failed to provide the community with adequate justification of an emergency to invoke the loophole in state legislation again. Therefore, the Montgomery County Taxpayers League recommends that the council vote no to the county executive's proposed FY 2026 real property tax rate increase. We advocate for fiscally responsible and sustainable budget growth to ensure we first prioritize the purpose of government, public safety, schools, and transportation. We must focus on growing our economy and remaining competitive. Taxpayer fatigue is one of the leading causes for residents and businesses choosing to migrate to places outside of Montgomery County and Maryland. We cannot tax or fee our way into more revenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Barbara Moskowitz.
Good afternoon. I'm Barbara Moskowitz. My husband and I have lived at 5612 Oakmont Avenue in Bethesda for 50 years. We raised our children there and have always been active in the community that we love. Now we're retired, and increasingly we feel that with others like us are being pushed out by housing policies, including increased property taxes, that seem designed to make Bethesda welcoming only to the very wealthy. The county's vision statement says it wants thriving families. It wants to be affordable and welcoming and greener. But housing policies contradict all these statements. Montgomery County policies encourage builders to tear down 2,000 square foot homes, replacing them with 4,000 to 6,000 square foot homes selling for a minimum in my neighborhood of $2.5 million on properties stripped of all old growth trees and with little permeable surface remaining. These homes drive up the property value of every home in the neighborhood regardless of size and lead to increases in property tax cost even when the rates stay the same, which it seldom does. Increased property value encourages builders to construct ever more expensive homes, and the cycle continues. The result is that NIH researchers, federal employees, teachers, police, nurses, and other middle-class workers can no longer afford homes here, and seniors like myself are increasingly disadvantaged. The steady yearly increase in assessed values, up to 21% recently, puts tremendous financial pressure on a vanishing middle class even before a rate increase. A policy that allows builders to maintain a tiny section of wall in an old home and market the new multi-million-dollar house constructed around it as a renovation makes matters worse. If you really value diversity, green space, and affordability, if you really are committed to welcoming neighborhoods, you would give builders a credit for truly renovating existing homes, leaving trees in place and minimizing impermeable surface that increases stormwater runoff, and you would provide a tax break for residents who've lived in their homes for 25 years or more. I've done my job by working, volunteering, and paying taxes in Bethesda for 50 years. I don't know all the best ways to achieve your worthy vision. Figuring out those details is your job. But I do know that putting additional financial burden on residents who have helped the county grow for decades, especially at a time when federal workers are threatened with job loss and the possible loss of Social Security and Medicare benefits, is counterproductive to that vision, and it's mean-spirited. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin Ficker.
Thank you. It's a pleasure and a privilege to appear before the Montgomery County Council, a jurisdiction where I've lived my life. Look at the situation. We have, on the federal level, we have a possible recession. I know it's iffy. We have the stock market down more this month than any month since August of 2020. We have a number of the stocks in the retirement accounts going down, way down. And we have a lot of unemployed federal and formerly federal employees looking for jobs who certainly don't need a property tax increase. On the state level, we have Governor Moore and his friends in the Montgomery County delegation who've decided that the way to attract Tim Cook of Apple and Jensen Huang of NVIDIA and Microsoft and Sergey Brin of Google and Jeff Bezos of his company, they've decided the way to attract those people to Maryland is to impose a first-in-the-nation 3% sales tax on technology. And I can assure you that tax will ensure that none of the Magnificent Seven and no big, smart technology company will ever locate in Maryland. On the county level, what we have a gentleman as the county executive who is the only person in U.S. history who has been term limited not once but twice, mainly for raising property taxes. In 2016, he was term limited for voting for the big increase in property tax increases while he was on the council. Just 2 years ago, he was term limited again for raising property taxes as county executive. But he's a smart guy. I can tell you, I know him pretty well. What he does, he gets these computer experts that do the redistricting, that draw the lines for the gerrymandering, and he works out a model of Democratic likely voters in that Democratic primary. All his focus is there. And he decides how much money he has to give the likely Democratic voters in order to get reelected. And he's done really well with that model, and probably some of you council members are following the same model. His model includes treating everyone else, not the Democratic primary voters, as ATMs. Well, I disagree because I don't like being an ATM. But I do respect a gentleman who testified here earlier, Mr. Ben of the Taxpayers League, and I urge you to go back and look at what he wrote in the Bethesda magazine, his article there, where he pointed out that the teachers in Montgomery County are earning $107,000 on the average for 10 months' work. He pointed out how 45% of the administrative expense of the school
Mr. Ficker,
board
your time is up.
is overhead.
Thank you, Mr. Ficker.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie Helsing.
Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Stephanie Helsing, and I'm the president and CEO of the Greater Silver Spring Chamber of Commerce. And on behalf of the Chamber, which represents more than 320 employers, mostly small and minority-owned businesses in the Greater Silver Spring area, we are here to ask the Council to strike the County Executive's proposed property tax increase. The GSSCC recognizes the challenging decisions our county leaders are facing. And as business leaders in Montgomery County, we share a vision of growing the county's economy, creating jobs, and fostering a thriving business community. However, doing it on the backs of our residents and businesses is not the way to go. As a minority-majority county equity focus area, Silver Spring has been slower to recover even after 5 years from the pandemic and continues to be negatively impacted by the Purple Line construction, rising prices on basic goods, and a community that is being gutted by federal layoffs. The proposed property tax increase, coupled with other increases like the system's benefit change, which is supposed to help close the county's waste-to-energy facility, will hit single-family homes with a 31% increase, multifamily properties and commercial properties with upwards of a 104% increase. Not only does this impact the business's bottom line, but the ability of the community, who is also struggling to continue to support the local businesses. Just consider that kind of increase on top of property tax assessments that we have increased by 29 to 40% over the last 5 to 10 years, a property tax increase that just went into effect, increased recordation taxes that this council passed, the implementation of rent control that this council passed, and legislation requiring electric-only building permits by next year. It's exhausting to list all the ways in which our county is burdening our business owners and citizens with fees and taxes rather than building a bigger and more productive economy. The requested tax increase and additional fees will deter investment overall, disincentivize the workforce from considering Montgomery County as a viable option, and make it difficult for business owners and residents to continue to choose Montgomery County as a place to live and do business. We don't envy your positions, but urge you to protect the businesses and the residents who are already facing affordability issues. Please don't make this the straw that breaks the camel's back. In a competitive and permissive environment, we will grow businesses, and they will in turn support the entire community and their social agenda. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. Vicky Veragani.
There we go. You have incredible Montgomery County residents. I'm just stunned to listen to know all of these things and committed. Holy smokes. Anyway, my name is Vicky Vergani, and I represent an award-winning garden apartment community with 214 condominium homeowners in Glenway Gardens, and we have spacious 3-bedroom units to sell for under $300,000 in Montgomery County. My position on the proposed real property tax rate increase is based on 40 years of living and owning in the same condominium, 25 years of leading our condominium as board president and on-site community manager, 5 years serving on the commission's CCOC with 2 years as vice chair. As a representative of my community and an individual, we are seriously opposed to the 3.5% increase. Montgomery County has pressing financial issues, a lack of economic development, cutbacks of the federal workforce, including contractors, a shortage of owned affordable housing, not rental, owned affordable housing. While none of us are thrilled to pay taxes, we all understand that government services are needed and must be paid for. The proposed 3.5% increase in property tax with a key driver of education is not acceptable because of the lack of ROI for taxpayers. Per the U.S. News and World Report, students graduating from John F. Kennedy High School have one of the poorest records of achievement nationally and statewide in the basic subjects of reading and math, and definitely are not workforce ready for even entry-level jobs. So off to Montgomery College for remedial work in those areas. That is not what our public school system is for. There are a number of common sense solutions to our education issues. For example, setting and working toward reasonable expectations for learning. Freeing teachers to teach instead of requiring them to police classrooms and pass incompetent students. Focusing students on learning instead of open campuses and amenities. I do not want to tell you what the open campus idea does to our community every single day in damage. Eliminating immersion programs that serve few students while half of the students go without basic skills. Paying teachers for their education in one subject matter while they teach in an unrelated subject matter. I have a friend with a PhD in special needs who's teaching ESOL and is getting paid $120,000 minimum, even though she's teaching something in which she does not have a PhD. Most importantly, it is important for the schools to provide structure to youth who often have no one to teach that rights go hand in hand with responsibility. With its power to tax, and I would like to take you back to the year 1819 here, Chief Justice John Marshall of the U.S. Supreme Court, in the case McCulloch versus Maryland, 1819, stated, "The power to tax is the power to destroy."
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jeremiah Pope.
Good afternoon, Council President Stewart, Vice President Juando, and members of the Council. My name is Jeremiah Pope. I have been a proud resident of Eastern Montgomery County for almost 20 years. I currently live in the Silver Spring with my family. As a longtime community member and local activist, my daily work focuses on supporting and uplifting working families across our county. Today, I'm testifying to urge strongly and respectfully to vote against any proposed property tax increase for fiscal year 2026. This is simply not the time to add to the financial burden our residents are already carrying. Working families, seniors, and young adults in Montgomery County are facing unprecedented challenges: job instability, skyrocketing home assessments, rising utility costs, and high record insurance premiums. Many already are at a breaking point. I fully recognize that maintaining high quality public service is essential and that it comes with a cost. But just like the families you represent, the county must also learn to tighten its belt in difficult times. Raising property taxes now would only push more families toward financial insecurity and potentially out of our county. Rather than asking homeowners to make up the difference, I encourage the council to consider alternative solutions, smarter budgeting, the elimination of unnecessary expenditures, and investments in more efficient service delivery models. These are steps that are fiscally responsible. They are compassionate and responsive to the reality your constituents are living. Let's work together to find balanced, creative solutions that protect our most vulnerable and keep Montgomery County a place where working families, seniors, and young adults can thrive, not just survive. Thank you for the opportunity to testify against this legislation today.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who is here in person. We will now go to those who are virtual. I think we have Jackie Morrison is first.
Hello.
Hi, Ms. Morrison. You can start.
Okay. I really don't have a long piece. I just want to say that I think that it would really cause just further pressure on those who are, just struggling day to day, trying to make ends meet. I work at a law firm in Washington, D.C., and I've been working there for many, many years, 34 years actually. And I started as a receptionist, and now I'm a legal administrative assistant. It's difficult still to even put food on the table. It's difficult to make mortgage each and every month, and fuel prices, like I said, food prices. And don't get a ticket, or just anything that's unexpected. The taxes would really cause just further pressure on the everyday citizen of Montgomery County. I went to Montgomery Blair High School. Montgomery County was a beautiful place. It was the premier place to live. And it just seems like it's just overcrowded. Silver Spring is overcrowded. It is a mess down there. It is a mess in Silver Spring. I don't even understand why no one can understand the seriousness of how much these taxes would really weigh on the common citizen. I don't even think millionaires would want to come to Montgomery County and live because of the taxes. We're taxed all over the place. So I am pleading with you, please do not raise the taxes much more. It's already tough enough to make it each and every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Carolyn Burns.
Hi there. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Carolyn Burns, and I am a Silver Spring resident and homeowner, a mom of school-aged children. My kid will go to Blair in a couple of years, and a real estate attorney. In the last 3 years, my family and clients have seen a 4.7% property tax rate increase, double-digit increases in the assessed values of our homes, and in some cases, a 75% increase in homeowners insurance premiums. This is not to mention the increase in recordation tax that affects all of my Montgomery County purchase sale transactions. The continuously increasing cost of living in Montgomery County is untenable, especially with slow income growth and the very real and looming threat of job loss from the federal government. I perform hundreds of real estate settlements a year throughout the DMV. At nearly every closing, a seller and buyer takes a look at the transfer recordation and property tax on the settlement statement and asks, how does this compare to Virginia or to DC or to Maryland? They are shocked by the taxes. It's almost as if the last step in their home buying process is added insult to injury after a month's, sometimes years-long search for their home. Are we in Montgomery County going to continue to outpace our neighbors in the DMV and make this county even far less attractive from a housing cost perspective than it already is? Now, these folks looking at the settlement statement at the settlement table already have their belongings on a moving truck and have already qualified for and secured their loan after contracting for their home, finally winning a bidding war. They very likely paid more than asking price for the home, an all too common occurrence in the real estate market burdened by low inventory. They are at the finish line and these questions are moot, but their sticker shock is no less genuine. What I don't have the heart to tell them is that their mortgage payment will go up next year. Not because you all may raise property taxes for the second time in as many years, but because their property assessment will increase, just as it has in this county for nearly 2 decades. All homeowners that have escrow payments built into their mortgages know the letter that I speak of. It's the letter from your mortgage servicer that tells you that your mortgage payment will increase $30, $100, $300 a month because the property tax bill increased from the previous year. Only once in the 17 years that I have owned my home did I get the good version of that letter, the one that tells you the escrow payment is decreasing, and that was the first year we owned our home when property values went down after the 2008 recession. Please do not add further to their burden. Do not increase property tax. Now is not the time. Everything is increasing, costs for groceries, health insurance, and childcare. Homes are unaffordable, and the income tax burden on Montgomery County residents will soon increase some 8.5%. Now is not the time. Please vote to not raise property taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Edwin Lyons.
Yes, I had a whole page of information that I was ready to share, but the previous speakers have captured everything that I wanted to speak about. And the bottom line is I'm feeling very good. We've had 24 people that were listed to speak. That shows a lot of enthusiasm, and every one of them have been against property taxes. I'm not a realtor or anything like that. I bought a house in Montgomery Village 2 years ago in the Bloom Village community, and I'm going to say I have some regrets because every time I turn around, somebody's in my pocket. Somebody's trying to take some of my money, okay? And it is becoming an issue that I even had to start an organization, Homeowners' Rights, basically to advocate for people like myself that are in HOAs that are being burdened with all kinds of fees when they look at the electric bill and all kinds of taxes coming from Montgomery County because Montgomery County can't manage their budget. I have to manage my budget. Montgomery County has to manage theirs. But here's the most important thing. The canary in the mine is already showing by the recent voting of term limits for the executive county executive. That right there was enough to tell me that there is hope for the future and that all of this nonsense with raising taxes will be over with. So that's it. Good luck. I know the taxes won't be raised. I know all of you are listening to what all of these people have said, and I'm excited to know that this will be put to rest. The end.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Next, we have Michael Kaufman.
Thank you. My name is Michael Kaufman. I'm a long-term
resident of Silver Spring, and I'm here to express my strong opposition to the proposed 3.5% property tax increase to fund additional school employment and programs. Property taxes are already scheduled to rise 17 to 20% over the next 3 years with the rising assessments, and the tax increase would add to that damage. And this is the first year I've ever questioned an assessment increase, but so you know that things are beginning to hurt me. We've had large increases in property taxes, utility charges, WSSC fees, et cetera, and it's really beginning to bite. And so, Maryland's currently grappling with this very significant fiscal challenges, and we've heard about the $3.1 billion deficit, proposed spending cuts, and tax increases. And I guess Montgomery County is going to wind up, from what I've been hearing, will wind up paying the majority of those tax increases some other way. But when I saw that the 3.5 was coming, I was just overwhelmed with what a poor timing it was. The measures come in response to economic uncertainties, exacerbated by federal policy changes, including these employment reductions, both for the government and the contractor employees, that will hit Maryland so hard. And we're already feeling financial strain. I think I'm a retired federal employee. We got a 2.5% increase last year, and it doesn't begin to match what's coming in terms of all these hits. And the Trump tariffs have caused the stock market to be off by about 15%, and we have to live with that. So that is really hurting. So this is really not a time that I would think would be good to be increasing spending. The schools, are important, but it seems like the schools shouldn't be able to eat up everything just because they're schools. And I understand they're supposed to get a 10. They're spending about $3.66 billion, or $222,000 per student, having a 10% increase over the previous year. And while the effectiveness, it's important to really examine the effectiveness of federal, states funding or counties funding on the schools.
Mr. Kaufman, sorry, your time went up. That's it. Your 3 minutes.
Okay.
The buzzer went off.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Those are all our virtual participants today. I just want to see if Robbie Shapiro joined us. No? Then thank you for your feedback on this item. This public hearing is now closed, and we are going to return to item number 2. Sorry, 1 second. And that is a public hearing in action. We took the action, but we have a public speaker who would like to speak with us on this resolution to approve supplemental appropriation 25-65 to the FY25 operating budget, Montgomery County Government, Department of Health and Human Services, Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development Emergency Rental Assistance Grant. It was a state grant. The council did take action on this. Mr. Nils Kininyuani, thank you for joining us, and if you would like to speak for 3 minutes, you have your time.
Thank you. Dear Council President and Council members, I come before you today as a community leader and a human rights advocate. My name is Nils Kinwani. I'm the founder and executive director for New Initiative for Civic Engagement, a nonprofit that works to empower and elevate the voices of minority and other underserved communities. When I arrived in the U.S. From Congo, I was a student at George Mason University with little more than hope and determination. Today, I stand before you as a homeowner, as a community leader, deeply invested in the future of Montgomery County, a place I chose to live because of its fair housing policies, its rich diversity, and its commitment to education and opportunity. This county gave me and so many immigrant families a chance to not just to survive, but to thrive. And so I'm here today not just to represent myself, but to speak for the many who are often unheard. The resolution before you is not just a policy proposal. It's a lifeline for many families drowning in the rising tide of housing insecurity, for workers whose paychecks are outpaced by inflation, for the people who help build Montgomery County every single day but find themselves one unexpected bill away from crisis. Council members, this resolution is about more than dollars. It's about dignity. It provides critical rental and utility assistance that could mean the difference between shelter and homelessness for thousands of families. These are our neighbors, your constituents, and the people that keep our county moving. Also, very importantly, Montgomery County often holds up diversity as a badge of honor, but I urge you to remember diversity without equity is just decoration. There are more than 10,000 Congolese Americans in this county, families, students, and small business owners contributing in countless ways. Yet too often we're excluded from the very resources meant to support us, and that must change. This is why I respectfully call for an amendment to this resolution, a clear mandate that the county executive proactively works to inform every community, especially underserved and minority communities, about this assistance. Because what good is help if the people who need it most never heard about it? We cannot let language barriers, complex paperwork, institutional neglect stand in the way of life-saving support, transparency, outreach, equity. These are not afterthoughts. These are essentials. Council members, your legacy will not be written in speeches or slogans. It will be written in the lives you touch and the futures you help shape. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. This public hearing is now closed, and that is the end of our public hearings this afternoon. Moving on to next is item 8, which is our consent calendar. I'm sorry. Thank you. Went too far. Item 7. We are not done with public hearings. Item 7 is a public hearing on a resolution to set the FY26 property tax credit for income tax offset. A Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee work session is scheduled for May 1st, 2025. Those wishing to submit material for the Council's consideration should do so by the close of business on April 24th, 2025. There are no registered speakers for this hearing. This public hearing is now closed. Now we are done with the public hearings and on to item 8. Item 8 is the consent calendar. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar. Councilmember Friedson moved. Councilmember Sales second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Okay, moving on to item 9 is a briefing on our capital improvements program status update. I think we have Mr. Lachenko and Mr. Mia who are with us to give us this update. Keith.
Good afternoon.
A week's recess and you forget to
microphone. We're here to provide a very brief update, a status report on where things stand fiscally with specifically our general obligation bond, CIP gap, if you will, in relation to our approved spending affordability guidelines. So Naeem and I will walk you through a quick summary of that, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, just as a matter of brief background as to where we are or how we got here, on January 15th, the CE transmitted his amended FY25 to 30 CIP program. And again, on March 14th and April 14th, he transmitted additional CIP amendments. But as of today, majority of amendments have been reviewed by committee. There are a few April amendments remaining this week and next week as we go through the operating budget reviews work session as well. Particularly those that are relating to actions by the General Assembly have yet to be reviewed. And then the Council will reconcile revenues and expenditures in the CIP together with the operating budget in mid-May and adopt the resolutions in late May. In terms of assumptions made in the CIP to date, the county executive, in his January 15th amended CIP transmittal, maintained improving SAG at the council-approved levels for GO bonds. Pay-go for FY25 was reduced from $51.2 million to $28 million, but still remains at the policy levels for both 25 as well as through 26 through 30. The CE has made revisions to the previously approved CIP for impact taxes, recordation taxes, and other revenue assumptions. Most notably, when the council approved Bill 22-24, the CE has revised impact tax revenue projections in its March 15th transmittal. That had an impact of about $27.8 million over the 6-year period. The executive has also included some project delays and reductions, most notably in transportation, specifically 7th Avenue Extended, as well as some other areas in order to keep the FY25 to 30 GO bond levels in line with expenditures in line with revenues. Beyond that, I'll turn it over to Keith to go over the gap chart.
Yeah, for purposes of CIP tracking, we assume the county executive's macro assumptions to date, unless there was some policy difference with the council, which there is not. And we're also consistent with spending affordability between the executive and the council, so that did not create any issues either. Assuming all those macro adjustments to date, we then take into account the committee recommendations that have been made, and then also have to consider any council preliminary actions as well that have occurred. So today in the packet, I show 2 scenarios just to give a sense of the range we may be dealing with as part of reconciliation. The first scenario assumes about a $46.9 million gap in the 6-year period. It's really made up of 2 changes that the council is very familiar with. One is Summit Avenue Extension. That's a project that the executive recommended for delay for affordability reasons in his January 15th transmittal. The council preliminarily has recommended putting it back on its approved schedule. So that has about a $31 million impact in terms of increasing from what was transmitted by the executive in January. The other change built into that $46.9 million is the MCPS CIP Affordability Reconciliation Project. This is something that the county executive does each year. It's often quite a bit more than this, and we often have to go through a non-recommended reduction process with MCPS. This year the number was small enough, and also we're still working out state aid. There's the issue of the Woodward state aid that the council has talked about. So we're still hoping to resolve some of those issues. But in advance of that, the council recommended removing that affordability reconciliation project. So at least initially, that does create or increases the gap to the $46.9 million. So that takes into account, as I mentioned, all the recordation tax and impact tax write-downs, any changes that the executive made between January and April, and those council changes that I mentioned. The second scenario, which shows a larger gap, a $76 million gap, this assumes all of those things we just talked about, but it also assumes that the executive's March amendments that he transmitted that were affordability related, in other words, cuts or deferrals to projects, if the council were not to accept any of those, what would the gap be? So it's I don't want to call it a worst case scenario. It's sort of a high case scenario. If none of those were accepted, there would be about a $29 million impact in the 6-year period. So that $46.9 million becomes about $76.6 or $76.7 million. So in either case, we still have some work left to do going forward. Like I said, we're still trying to work out some of the state aid issues. That's with the schools, but also with other projects related to the General Assembly's final actions. Some of those are still to come before the council. There's also other projects from March that the council will be working through. So once we have all that settled down, Then staff can develop some reconciliation scenarios in May and bring those back to the council for consideration as part of CIP reconciliation, where we balance all of the revenues and all of the expenditures to get to a balanced CIP. Today's discussion's focusing on general obligation bonds, but of course we also have to balance park and planning bonds, current revenue, and be consistent with whatever actions there are on the operating budget as well. With that, we'll stop and take any questions, if any, today.
All right. See if anyone has any questions today. I am not seeing any. Thank you for that update. We know a lot more work needs to get done, but we appreciate you keeping us all apprised of all the moving pieces. That is our last item on our agenda this afternoon. So we are adjourned, and our Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee will be meeting here at 3 p.m. Thank you, everyone.